It's no secret that the internet is fake. From airbrush Instagram models to prank videos with painfully obvious scripts, the average viewer has been slowly conditioned to expect illusion. But what happens when the illusion isn't just encouraged? What if it's being manufactured from the top down? Recently, a woman came forward with a disturbing claim. TikTok, yes, the same app where teens dance in front of their mirrors and brands sell you toothpaste from AI-generated influencers, allegedly try to pay her to act out a fake life. Not just a role or a brand deal, they wanted her to lie to her followers, to everyone, and they were willing to pay handsomely for it. This isn't just a case of someone faking a vacation to Bali or flexing a rented Lamborghini. No, this was a deliberate pitch from TikTok itself, a corporate strategy to create fictional personas, scripted trauma, staged redemption arcs, and entirely synthetic influencer identities. Think Truman Show, but vertical and algorithmically optimized. And if that sounds insane to you, good, because today we're diving into the TikTok actor conspiracy, and if this testimony is real, it changes everything. Her name isn't plastered all over mainstream news, and you won't find any major YouTuber doing deep dives about her yet. But in a now viral clip, she records herself from the front seat of a car with the kind of half-laughing disbelief only someone telling the uncomfortable truth would have. She claims she was approached by TikTok directly, or at the very least someone affiliated with the platform, to become an actor on the app. Not just a content creator, mind you, not someone with a brand or message, an actor. As in, here's a script, here's your character, now go perform it for millions of people who think you're real. The woman describes how the offer included a completely fabricated backstory. She would portray someone struggling through a highly specific form of trauma, either addiction, domestic abuse, or poverty. They allegedly wanted her to document her journey to recovery, all under the guise of authenticity. And it wasn't like she was expected to do this out of goodwill. According to her, they offered good money, enough to raise eyebrows and force questions. The idea was clear: tap into the most powerful forms of storytelling on TikTok, vulnerability. There's an entire genre of TikToks centered around mental health, trauma dumps, day in the life of a struggling mom, or watch me get evicted while doing my makeup. These videos get views, they get likes, and they get attention. So what happens if those stories aren't real? What if the people we think are bearing their souls to us are actually reading from a script? This woman chose not to take the deal, saying it didn't sit right with her, but her video sparked a wave of quite suspicion. People started looking around and wondering how many of these creators are just characters. And before you dismiss this as a rant of some clout-chasing woman, let's take a second to consider the implications here. TikTok is a multi-billion-dollar company owned by ByteDance, a Chinese tech giant with a known obsession for algorithmic control. They've gamified attention and figured out how to hook users in less than a second. So if planting actors with fake stories helps retain more eyeballs, more hearts, and more ad revenue, why wouldn't they? This isn't about one woman anymore. It's about the possibility that TikTok is quietly hiring performers to create emotional bait, designed not to inspire, but to manipulate. Think about it. If you could fabricate 10 influencers with viral sob stories, each with perfectly curated arcs of pain, growth, and triumph, you could dominate the algorithm. Every scroll would be another act in your digital soap opera. But the problem is, you'd be lying. And that's where things start to get dark. A parasocial relationship is a one-sided emotional connection between a viewer and a media figure. It's why you might feel like you know your favorite creator, even though they've never responded to a single one of your comments. It's the illusion of friendship, closeness, and trust manufactured through a screen. And TikTok is built on this. Unlike YouTube, where creators often keep a layer of professionalism, TikTok thrives on raw, unfiltered emotion, or at least what appears to be unfiltered. Users share their breakups, their hospital visits, their custody battles. They record themselves mid-panic attack or in the aftermath of a violent situation, and viewers eat it up. Why, you might ask? Because it feels real, and in a world dominated by polished influencers and soulless brand deals, people are starved for authenticity, even if it's fake. Now imagine being emotionally invested in someone's story. Maybe you followed them for months, cried with them, rooted for them, and then finding out it was all scripted. Every tear, every triumph, every candid breakdown. That's not just misleading, that's psychological exploitation. What this woman's testimony reveals is a weaponization of empathy. TikTok doesn't just want your attention, it wants your emotions. Because emotional content gets more shares, more comments, and more engagement. And more engagement means more data, more time on app, and more money. But this isn't just TikTok taking advantage of trends. This is about strategic engineering of human connection. Let's say TikTok creates a persona, Emma, a young single mother recovering from addiction. They cast a real actress, give her a script, and let the algorithm do the rest. Within a week, Emma is viral. People are sending money, leaving support comments, praising her strength. She's being stitched into reactions, turned into a symbol of hope, except she's not real. And what's worse, you've bonded with a ghost. When creators are actors, every moment of intimacy becomes performance. The tears, staged, the confessionals, storyboarded, the vulnerability, weaponized for clicks. It's no different than reality TV, except there's no disclaimer, no some scenes have been dramatized, just a cold, unspoken manipulation of your trust. And look, we've all known that influencers embellish their lives, but this goes beyond filters and flexing. This is about fabricated trauma and the emotional puppeteering of audiences who think they're helping someone heal. We've created an ecosystem where being a victim is a career path, and if that doesn't terrify you, it should. So let's connect the dots. A massive social media platform allegedly approaches someone with an offer to act out a fake life, complete with a tragic backstory and staged growth, just to boost views. That sounds insane until you realize it makes perfect business sense. TikTok isn't some mom and pop app run by idealistic developers. It's owned by ByteDance, a company that has openly admitted to curating content visibility, not just through algorithms, but through literal moderation teams deciding which videos get seen. It's called heating, as in pushing specific creators into virality. Now imagine if those creators weren't just randoms who got lucky. Imagine if they were planted. Actors, scripts, arcs, all written by a marketing team. Here's your trauma, here's your redemption, now cry on camera. And the best part, the audience never knows. You think you're watching a girl overcome addiction, you're not. You're watching a performance, one designed to keep you emotionally hooked, scrolling longer, engaging more. That's not just shady, that's psychological warfare disguised as content. The conspiracy angle here isn't some tinfoil fantasy. It's the idea that platforms, desperate for retention and growth, are turning people into products, not influencers, not creators, but literal characters in a never-ending soap opera where everything is fake, but the dopamine you get from watching, that's real. They're doing this with actors now. What's next? AI-generated influencers, entire accounts created in a lab somewhere in Beijing, pumping out synthetic trauma for American teens to cry over. Oh wait, they're already doing that. Virtual influencers with no human behind them at all, and guess what? They never get tired, they never make mistakes, and they always stay on message. We're headed toward a world where everything on your feed could be fabricated, manufactured emotion, scripted tragedy, programmed redemption, all designed to keep you scrolling. So yeah, one woman saying she was offered a role might sound like a small story, but it might just be the crack in a much larger facade, one where TikTok isn't just a platform, it's a production studio, and you're the audience, whether you like it or not. The woman claims TikTok offered to pay her to live a lie, to play a character, to turn trauma into content, and whether she's the only one or just the first to speak up doesn't really matter, because now we have to ask ourselves, how much of what we're watching is real? We scroll, we believe, we engage. But maybe it's time we stop trusting the performance and start questioning the stage. Because if everything's fake, what happens to us? As always, stay weird.